Mark Roybal, executive producer of Mare of Easttown. We're talking to you on the heels of 16 Emmy nominations for this wonderful HBO limited series. Take us back to nominations morning a few weeks ago, and just hearing your show title time after time after time after time.
It was quite a morning. I was watching it with Brad Inglesby, the creator, and Nicole, our associate producer, and we were just absolutely just amazed. I mean, just so thrilled and just so humbled, to be honest. It was so gratifying, to be honest. We were so thrilled for the cast, but also just so overwhelmed for everybody involved, for everybody that all of the artisans and filmmakers that were part of this process, from below the line, Keith and Avi and Megan and just everybody that was nominated. We were so truly surprised because a show like this that's set, a contemporary show, doesn't get a lot of these kinds of recognitions, and so we're just totally thrilled, to be honest, and surprised.
Oh, absolutely. And I've been lucky enough to talk to a lot of those artisans that are nominated, and you're absolutely right, because the feel of the show, and I think that's why it resonated so with people, was so authentic. And
Totally.
Sometimes that doesn't necessarily get on the radar of branches that are looking for more obvious creativity.
Totally. Yeah. I watched your interview with Megan. It was from a few days ago, and I just thought, first of all, you were so unbelievably researched, and so thank you for that. But you're absolutely right. I mean, just the authenticity, and you asked her about the authenticity and the detailing of what she did. Getting down to the Dave Matthews T-shirts, to the college days when Lori went to college and finding the exact shirt. I mean, those are the things that went into her work, into Keith's work, into Shanika's work, and Debbie's stuff, and that's the thing that comes out. And I think it was just people recognized that, and people responded. Viewers responded to that, and I just think amazing that people that sometimes you wonder if people pick that up, and and they did. So it was amazing.
Well, one of the people you mentioned, what you were watching with, was Brad Inglesby. So the creator of the show, he created that world. But how did you come into that world? How did you and Brad? I think you go way back to another script, right? That still it's on the blacklist, that still hasn't been made.
Oh, yes. So Brad and I go way back. We have a mutual friend by the name of Mike Pruss. Mike and I worked at a small company, great little company called Indian Paintbrush, way back when, and he introduced me to Brad, who was a friend of his from AFI, and so we developed a few scripts. One of those was Nancy and Danny, and we tried to make Nancy and Danny, and we were close, but and we went through a lot in that process. Brad and I became very, very close, and over the years, Brad and I developed a few feature scripts. I came from the feature world, and but we never got to that place. We never made a film together, and at some point, I decided to get into producing television. I just thought that's where the business was going. And I called him up one day and I said, Brad, you write these unbelievable characters. I think long form television is where you need to be. And he said, funny enough, I just finished a pilot last night. And I said, and he said, do you want to read it? I said, of course. And he sent it to me that afternoon. I mean, I devoured it, of course, in one sitting. And the next morning I called him. I said, what can I do? I want to be part of this. It was the story of Mare Sheehan, Paul Sheehan, your cousin maybe. I mean, I fell in love with her. My heart broke for her. I just wanted to know what happened to her, and what she was going to do. Was she going to be okay? It reminded me of It reminded me a little bit of The Deer Hunter. I don't want to get too big, but just this small town in Pennsylvania, a broken town, and everything was resting on this woman's shoulders. I thought, oh my God, what is going to happen? And he just said, okay, let's do it. And there it was, and that's how I got involved.
Well, and it's so interesting when you say about how you sort of moved to television, because I feel like feature films moved away from you, and it's the franchises, and it's not the kind of character-driven films that you were part of making. And so, I think that's the golden age of television is why it welcomes you, because you can shepherd those kinds of projects. And I know Brad's spoken expansively about the vital role you played in the development of the story and as the sounding board. So could you just talk a little, I have to admit slight ignorance. So what role would executive producer play when you're working with the writer?
Well, thanks for the question. It's a good one. Brad is such a talented writer. I mean, he is so thoughtful, and when he presented the script, he had thought a lot about where this was going, and in fact, he knew his ending. But he didn't tell anybody, right? He didn't want to tell anybody. In fact, I didn't really want to know. So he basically wrote the pilot, and then I encouraged him to write a second script. And as he was turning in these scripts, I would, as an executive producer, I would just respond emotionally to what I felt was working and what wasn't working, issues of logic, and just felt like where I thought, I wanted to see the story go, and what I thought was missing, both narratively and emotionally. And then by the time we got to the seventh and final script, we stood back and said, okay, how's it all working? How's the clock, this watch, how does it all ticking? And so we kept on picking it apart, but he had it so thought out that it almost made my job a little easier. But he's such a generous writer that he invited me into the process to really get in there and ask real questions about what these characters are going through, and individually what are they facing, and what do we want from them, and what do audience expect from these characters. And so we got into the real nitty gritty and the development of these characters to really push them. And I can't say that I made the scripts better, because he really thought of them, and they were so fully baked, but he allowed me to really question and push. And I wasn't the only one. Kate, of course, throughout this, and Craig, and of course HBO, and
well, it's interesting you mentioned HBO.
Yeah,
because I think nowadays so much of what we watch on streaming services, and we're sort of conditioned to getting it all in one fell swoop. And I really feel part of, I think, why Mare resonated with people was that weekly installment. You created a water cooler show in the 2020s, which is so unusual. But I know not to say the word cliffhanger to you, because that's you didn't feel like that you didn't want that notion that the episodes were ending on cliffhangers. And I think it's more of they end on an emotional high that invites the viewer to come back the following week. But I think the idea is you didn't want the show to be characterized as just sort of this thriller murder mystery, because it's really, I think at its heart, a character study.
Absolutely. Well, we did want it to be a little bit of a cliffhanger in terms of the thriller, the thriller element, but we also wanted it to be an emotional cliffhanger as well. Right. So that was both of those threads were very, very important for us. The emotional part being the character stuff. both in Mare's life, but also in terms of the case itself. So those were always very, very important for us. But the HBO part of it, I'll tell you, when we were very fortunate that there were a lot of places, a lot of buyers that were interested in doing this, and we chose HBO for a few reasons. One, Nora Skinner was a dear friend of mine. I've worked with her many times. And I worked with her at Indian Paintbrush, and she got to know Brad that way. So there was history there, but also HBO is just an incredible place, right? We all know that it is really the gold standard, and their marketing is, we just love, by reputation, we just thought, what an amazing place. We didn't think of, quite honestly, the week to week thing. We didn't. Truly, we didn't. We just thought it would be nice. It would be a nice experience. But I'll tell you, you're right, Paul. The pandemic unfortunately hit, but because I think people were so accustomed to binge watching, and then we came towards the later part of the pandemic. Right. I think that the timing of it, that I think people wanted to kind of take a breather and to wait a week. They had that patience, and there was this communal experience of going through, watching it and talking about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Week to week, right? And which was unusual at the time, and it was a throwback to when we did have those water cooler moments, and we could all talk as a country about one topic, about something we did see on a Sunday night or on a Thursday night, as we did sometimes. So I think that was unusual, and it was lucky timing. And in retrospect, we were very fortunate that happened. Unfortunately, it was during a pandemic, but it was odd timing.
When I was doing my research, one of these stories I loved was that as the producer, one of your co-executive producers is Kate Winslet, who made a demand on you that was so unusual, I'm sure, in your career. So you've got the star of this show, the title character, demanding that her trailer be smaller. And I've never read or heard of that before.
Oh my gosh, that's one example of many.
Yeah.
I mean, the first day on set, I went to her and I said, she was sitting there with her lunch in her bag, with her little recyclable bag, with her. I just remember this exactly, and she had the little plastic box, or it wasn't plastic for sure, but some recyclable box or whatever.
Right.
And I remember thinking, and she had to go somewhere, and people, she was just walking around by herself, and I said, Kate, do you think I should get you somebody to get you lunch, or can we hire you an assistant? And she kind of just laughed at me. She said, I don't do that. I don't need an assistant. And she'd already made the demand about the trailer. She's just not that way. She's like, no, I want to be here. I don't need any of this. I just want to be connected. She's approachable. She's just, I don't know how to explain it, except she's just part of the crew. She's just, it's not, she's Kate. There's no way to say it except she's just Kate.
And Emmy nomination, Emmy nomination for her, no surprise. But what was so wonderful talking to Julianne Nicholson and finding out that Kate approached her and they have a connection through Julianne's husband. But then Evan Peters, this is such a change of pace, his first Emmy nomination. How your role, the casting, how much of a role do you play in the casting? And right down Gene Smart and all the way down through a lot of theater people from New York I recognized.
Yes. and that's with A.V. Kaufman. Very much part of the casting from day one. A.V. cast my first movie, Stop Loss, when we were at Paramount. I brought on A.V. And introduced them to Brad and to our director, and I wanted A.V. because she's so plugged into the New York theater world, right. And she's such a smart, thoughtful casting director, and I just love her. She's got a beautiful soul, and she'll do all of our shows. And I just thought she would know how to build this world, and she'll pull from New York people that can really transplant themselves to Philadelphia, and specifically to this region, this part of Philadelphia. And she did just a tremendous job. And with Evan, she just knew that Evan had something in him. And we've known his work. Obviously, he's done some really fantastic work, and just so versattle, right? I mean, he's done X-Men movies, he's done the Ryan Murphy stuff, but we'd never seen. I'd never seen him do something like this, where he was going to be. There's just a lot of contours to this role that I think that I hadn't seen before, and but he put himself on tape, and he was just nailed it, and I just thought, okay, this is it.
Yeah, you mentioned that we got to watch it during COVID, so my understanding is about half of it was filmed before the pandemic. Then you had to shut down. As a producer, I mean, what is that like? That not just the shutting down, but trying to figure out, when do we restart? How do we restart? I know Brad said he had to rewrite some scenes. The big wedding scene becomes sort of the post-wedding few of them. Just if you could just sort of talk to us about that.
Credit to Brad, to Craig Zobel, and our director, and to Ron and Karen, our line producers, of course, to HBO for really trying to figure this out. It was incredibly difficult. We were one of the first productions to go back, and it was, kind of feeling our way through the dark, to be honest. There were some creative issues for sure, and we had a third of our production left. And I will say that it was fairly difficult to figure out when to go back. We didn't know what the protocols were. When we decided to go back, it was still the summer. There was a little bit of an ebb in terms of the virus, but we decided let's go back in the fall and let's do some rewriting. Brad figured out how we can minimize some scenes that had a lot of crowds, and Craig and Ron Schmidt and Karen Wacker, our line producers, and producers, they tackled the protocol issues with HBO, Mike Askin and his group, and we just kind of methodically went through how to do it, and safety was of utmost concern, right? Of course, and we presented a plan to Kate and just reassured her it's all about safety. And if we couldn't assure 100% safety, we weren't going to go back. That was the threshold. And she felt safe, and we said, okay, if we can do that, then we can get everybody else on board, right? And that's all we drove for. And if there's at one moment any concerns, we would stop. And to Kate's credit, when she felt confident enough, just like everything, it starts from the top, right? When Kate felt like she could do it, everybody jumped on board. And it was all hands on deck, and then we got there, and we were the beneficiaries of having stopped in the fall, in the spring, and because we'd shot so much, the group felt so connected. And I'll tell you that this crew is really special. I'll be honest, because a lot of them turned down jobs to go back to Mare. I mean, really, they turned down long-term jobs to finish the Mare job, and I just it really, that's why it was so gratifying to see people respond to the show. And
Absolutely. Well, listen,
yeah.
Congratulations. I mean, you shepherded this production from start to finish, and a big journey, but congratulations again on those 16 Emmy nominations, and certainly
Thanks.
best of luck in September.